All right, so it looks like we're live now. So, good morning, good day. My name is Kenneth Flanders, and welcome to another webinar powered by TeamDrive. Think smarter, share safer. So, our topic for today, seamless transitions, joining your existing spaces on a new computer. Again, my name is Kenneth Flanders, and I'm the Technical Customer Support Manager here at TeamDrive. So, our mission for today we will walk through methods of regaining access to spaces after a new installation. So we have four methods of doing so. Automatic, an automatic method, if you have the key repository enabled, a self-invite, importing backup keys using a local backup file, and importing backup keys using the key repository if you have the key repository enabled. And just a side note, the key repository is normally enabled by default. You would need to manually disable it in order for it to not work. So we'll start with method one, automatic invitations via the key repository. So in general, again, if the key repository is enabled, once you have successfully logged into TeamDrive, you should receive these, so to say, automatic invitations. So I'll log in. Okay, so we are logged in. And as you can see, I have no active spaces. So again, these are, we call them automatic invitations, but they will not appear in the invitation section. In general, they appear here in the inactive spaces section because the keys stored in your key repository, the ones that are automatically imported, are imported into your inactive spaces. So if I click on inactive spaces, I see I have a list of spaces that I have created in the past, and their keys are stored in my key repository. So for this, I will just activate all of them. And I can simply activate all of them individually, or I can activate them individually by simply clicking on them and clicking activate. Alternatively, I can click here on the three dots at the top, select, select all, and activate all of them at once by clicking done and activate. So I'll activate all four. So during this process, you see the status for each space recovering space. This little symbol here, the pencil with the line drawn through it, means that the space is at this moment not writable, and it's not writable because the space hasn't been joined yet. If there are files in the space, you will see activity here at the bottom of the screen showing that files are being downloaded or that you are joining a space. And until the spaces have recovered, we cannot do anything in the space. We simply have to wait. Okay, so once we reach the status of restoring local files, that means the space has been joined, and now it's downloading the files, if there are any files in the spaces. So for the first space at the top, key repo space, we see today's date, or we see the date as in today, the time, and a username, which is the owner of the space. In this case, I'm the owner of the space. So once you see this status, that means you have successfully joined the space completely. It doesn't mean that all files have been downloaded. It's still possible that files are currently being downloaded, but now you're active in the space and you're able to make changes in the space. So I just have one space left that needs to be joined. Space actually may be a little bit bigger, but we can just wait and see. So we can check to see how things are going. If we look at activities, yes, there are quite a few files in this space. But the key thing here is that we've seen that after a new installation, we will be automatically invited, so to speak, to spaces that are stored in our key repository, whose keys are stored in our key repository, and these spaces were active in one of your previous installations or one of your most recent installations. And again, they will not appear as invitations, even though we call them invites. They will appear in your inactive spaces. So you need to go to your inactive spaces and activate them. Once you activate inactive active spaces, you then see them in the active spaces section because they're now active, of course. Okay, so while that continues to join, we'll move on to the next method. So the next method is the self-invite. So for a self-invite, you will need to have multiple installations. For example, TeamDrive on one of your computers and also on a cell phone, on a tablet, for example. So for this scenario, I'll simply create a secondary installation and invite myself to it. So I'll just take care of that in the background. And it's important to know that, for test purposes or just in general, before you can invite yourself to a space, before you can invite yourself to a space, the new installation must exist. TeamDrive only sends invitations to devices that exist at the time the invitation was sent. I need to. So one moment. So I'm just quitting TeamDrive. Okay. Okay, so now I have my new installation again. So this would be my new installation. So now I'm logged in. Again, I have no active spaces. It's a new installation. So in this case, I will receive my automatic invitations, so to speak. But in this case, we will not accept them because we're thinking of a scenario where I need to re-invite myself to a new installation or to a device where I don't have access to the space. And keep in mind, if a space is already in the TeamDrive app, you will not receive an invitation for it. For example, the spaces are already in my device as inactive spaces, which means the client will recognize, okay, the space is already there, and you won't receive the invitation because the client knows I already have this space. So just for this example, I'll delete one space from my inactive spaces and then invite myself to that space from my other device. Okay, so now inactive spaces is missing here. Again, I have no spaces, so I'll invite myself from my secondary device. Then I'll also show you the process of inviting yourself. Okay, so this is the first installation we started with. You see, okay, now it's done restoring the file. I want to have access to my first space. That's the space that I deleted. So I simply go here on info and I go to members. I'm the only member. Normally, if you have more members, you'll see more members. And then you go here to this little head icon and re-invite. Again, TeamDrive will send invitations to devices that exist at the time you send the invitation. So if I click here, you see, okay, you've been successfully re-invited. Okay, we'll just wait to make sure we see the activity. And in the meantime, we can just leave this space. That'll make things easier. We don't have to worry about downloading those files. Okay, now we have our activity that the invitation has been sent. Okay, so we will start our other installation again. Okay, so now we just wait until the invitation arrives. Okay, so we have our invitation. Okay, and now we just click on our invitation, hit the check mark to accept the invitation. and we just confirm. And we have other join options, but for now we just want to join it. We just want to accept the invitation and join the space. The invitation disappears, and once I go back to active spaces, I see that I'm now joining the space. So this is the second way of regaining access to a space. Okay, so for our third method of regaining access to a space, import a space via a local backup file. Okay, so we can just stick with this. We can just stick with this app and import the spaces for a local backup from a local backup file. So to do so, we need to first go into the settings, and from the settings we go to backup. Once we're in backup, I mentioned the key repository earlier about the key repository always being enabled. This is the key repository feature. This is a description of it here where it says backup keys on the server, and this would be how you turn it off or turn it on. And as you see, it's on automatically. Okay, so once we're at backup, we go to import keys. And in this case, we want to import from a backup file. So the Windows Explorer open, or the Finder if you're using a Mac. You can't see it now because it's not visible. And you will see a list of backup files. From there, you just select all the backup files and hit open. Once you have done so, you may see a quick flash on the TeamDrive screen because it's very quick. Normally you don't see anything, and you simply go back, and then you go to inactive spaces. Oh, it appears I may be offline, which means the import didn't work. Okay, the import was successful even though I was briefly offline. So you see it imported the other three spaces that I didn't invite myself to. So I definitely won't join this one because it takes some time to join. So I'll activate, we can activate the web app space, just as an example. Okay, and we see now we're joining the web app space. Oh, it appears that wasn't visible, what I was explaining. Then then we can just do it again with another space. I apologize for that. Okay, so we can repeat the process again. So to import a space, we simply go into the settings here. We go to backup, and again, as I mentioned before, the key repository, a description of the key repository is here, can be found here, and this will be how you enable it or disable it. And as you can see, it's enabled, and as I mentioned, it's always enabled by default. Okay, so in the backup section, you go to import keys, and we want to import from a backup file. This will open a local Windows Explorer or Finder window, and you will see a list of your keys, and then you select all the keys and hit open. Once you hit open, the keys will be imported immediately. It's normally very quick, so you don't see anything on the screen. Afterwards, you just go back, and then you go to inactive spaces, and you will see that you have imported spaces. So since I've already since I've already reactivated the other spaces, I'll just go with key repo space to activate. So we click on it and we hit activate. Seems like I'm having some connection issues here. I apologize for that. But you see, we're currently joining the space. So we've been able to import the space and join it. Okay, and the final method is a manual import of the key from the key repository. Okay, and for that, we will continue to work with the same installation. So in this case, we can just leave these two spaces for an example. And to import from this key repository, we go back into the settings. From there, we go to backup. And again, we click on import keys. This time we want to import from the server. So that time we did see a small wheel turning, most likely because we imported from the server instead of from the local backup files. And then we go back to our inactive spaces, and we should see the keys that we've imported. Seems like I'm having some connection issues. Let's see. One moment. Let's see if we can update the connection. Okay, so now we're reconnected. Let's see if we have a better connection now. We should have a better connection. So then I need to just try to import the keys again. So I go here, import the keys from the server. Okay. All right, perfect. And this time it was successful. Better internet connection now. So if we go to our inactive spaces, then we see the keys that we have just imported. So again, I'll activate key repo space. And we see we have been able to activate the space. The space is currently recovering because we've imported it. So we don't need to wait until well, now it's restoring local files, which means the initial join has been successful, and you'd see the status has been updated to today's date, and the join has been successful. Okay, so that's the fourth and final method. And just to recap, so moving to a new computer doesn't mean starting over. You can rely on automatic server backups, the key repository, invite yourself from a mobile device or a secondary device. It could be an additional computer, or it can also be an additional person or an additional member of a space that has at least super user rights in the space, super user or administrator rights in the space. You can use a local backup file. This could also be stored on the USB. If you store your backup files additionally on a USB stick, or you can manually import your keys from the server as we did using the key repository. And that will wrap up our webinar for today. Again, if you haven't downloaded TeamDrive or used TeamDrive, feel free to download TeamDrive now. So thank you for your time, and I hope this webinar has been informative for you. So I'll check the chat to see if there are any questions. At the moment, I do not see any questions. So thank you for joining and see you in the next webinar.